Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team, and this week a special guest. Joining me is Ramon.
Hey guys.
And this week our special guest is Tim.
Hey, you've all been spoiled with the professional guests over the last 2 months, and now you've got me, the newbie, again.
Listen, Tim, you are hardly a newbie.
I've done 17 sessions now, so maybe not.
You have done the impossible.
You have finished a campaign. A dream none of us can achieve.
I need to give you like a medal, man. I have yet to do that somehow. But that's the name of the game. Hey folks, this is the Win with Dice podcast. The podcast all about tabletop RPGs, running them, playing them. Cav and I like to take a casual approach to GMing, DMing. And, we like to share our stories, so, maybe you can jump on the other side of the screen and run a game for your friends. If two jabronis from Canada can do it, I think you can do it too. So, yeah.
Heck yeah. So this week, we are going to get into talking about the Pathfinder 2 conversion of Lost Mine of Phandelver that Tim's been running for us. We have to discuss the final session of that game, as well as what we may be doing next. I'm very excited. You don't have to go into spoilers or anything, but I'm curious where your head's at right now.
I would say the official title of that campaign is Lost Mines of Timdelver. I'm pretty sure I coined that. So
that's generally how we've been referring to it the last few months.
Okay, Lost Mine of Timdelver. I guess we could call it that. It's terrible for the SEO, but sure.
Yeah, no.
I think it's mainly because you guys keep forgetting the name of the town, and it just seems that that's sticked. It's not me trying to appropriate this as my own campaign.
I remember it.
No, I
was trying to be polite to Ramon.
I'm not.
Calvin has enough of me already. He's like, get out
Everybody
of here.
Gets one. So we're gonna get into that game, and hopefully we'll have time to also discuss a JoJo RPG game that Tim ran for me and Chibi. It was really fun. I got a lot of JoJo on the brain because I've been mainlining the soundtrack for this whole weekend for other stuff. So I'm really I can't say yet. I'll tell you off stream. I don't want to spoil anything.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, I'm excited for that. But before we get into all of that fun stuff, we have to get to the most important part of the show: the Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week.
Yes, the Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week, brought to you by Tim today.
Yeah, that catchy theme music that's just going to have been added over. Very nice, love it every time. So you've had some people and yourselves on previously say about, you've got this item that you want to give your players, and whenever there comes an appropriate time that they open a particular chest or meet a particular person, they can then acquire that item. My tip is the opposite. There is in Phandelver, I've been like, okay, there's an item in this chest here, and if you guys don't find that chest, you never get that item. It's gone. There might be a different item waiting for you somewhere in the future, but you've missed out on things by not exploring well enough, or being too scared to go down into a particular crevasse or whatever else. And maybe do that. So it's like, oh no, you don't want to be brave and explore. You don't get the benefits of it. And maybe a different party who goes where your players have ended up going later on, maybe they discover the thing, and they're you're in a tavern, they're like, oh, it was crazy, we wandered into this cavern, there were all these just dead skeletons everywhere, and I mean, alright, undead skeletons everywhere that were re-deaded.
There you go.
and there's all this stuff, and then we just look down this place where it had been avoided, and there's just one zombie in there trained to a chest, and it's oh, it had this really cool sword in, and look at this, everyone, it's so shiny and does magic stuff, and then your players are aww. We killed all the things. We could have had that.
That's so funny. Just jilt them, feel oh lol, you forgot this. This other party's got it, and they're the real heroes now.
Yep.
I think it's cool. I think it's a cool idea. I think it's awesome, especially if you are a longtime GM just, running the same kind of starter campaign over and over again, like you could probably do with Phandelver. And like every time you have a new group, it's like, I wonder what they're going to find, or if they're going to pick up stuff or whatever. Right? Or you could just like, even after a while, just give out achievements, be like, wow, you found the impossible sword that no one ever picks up. Like,
Achievement unlocked.
Yeah, achievement unlocked, right?
Yeah, it's also like, it's great in terms of like if you have like a bunch of NPCs or another party or whatever show up with that item, you can then sort of like nudge that one group you had before into the idea of exploring more into dangerous areas, because like reflexively, I don't want to go in a crevasse. It's dark in there. I don't know what's in there. But at the same time, like if I'm seeing other characters show up like, hey, we went in this dark hole and we came up with a sword, then the next time I see a dark hole, I'm going to be like, I don't know, 50-50, there's a sword in there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's cool too, because like all these pre-written adventures, right? Like it makes it so like your experience as a player in that pre-written adventure is like that much more different from somebody else's, from some other gaming groups, because the GM is different, obviously the players are different, obviously, but now it's even like, well, we didn't even find the same things or explore the same avenues, we just like did it differently with the same piece of text, right? So yeah, it's cool. It's a choose your own adventure, which I guess is basically what this whole entire game genre is. Right. All right. Cool. Thanks, Tim. That's your weekly GM tip of the week, folks. All right.
Kapow. All right. So with that piece of information in mind, let's hop into the lost mine of Timdelver. Now, when we last left our heroes, quote unquote, those being Silrona the wizard, Teeks the druid, Fallum the shield-based fighter, Bren the punchy ranger, and Kavo the half-orc barbarian. They were sort of exploring they finally came across the Wave Echo Cave and the lost mine inside, with the guidance of Guldrin. Going into there, we dealt with a bunch of undead, some bugbears. There was a beholder, or a spectator, I believe it was called, who left Bren pantsless and wet, leading to a interesting discussion about some certain mechanics regarding create water and create food.
Oh, not again.
But that session ended with the party being a bit split up as we ran into some jellies and some bugbears. We were able to sort of come back together and kill the jellies, but the bugbears returned, facing us after we had to deal with those creatures, some of which did some pretty hefty damage to us because they multiplied when we hit them. Which leads...
mistakes were made.
Some mistakes.
I'm never putting jellies in a game again. That was awful. That was awful for everyone. Not least myself, having to watch you guys make terrible decisions.
Just make it a final boss and like by itself, and then we'll feel it. Like it was bad that there were two of them, and then it was like
they were like, I'm gonna slash it, and now there are four.
Yep.
To be fair, it wasn't me.
You are right.
Yeah, I was just standing in the splash zone of that decision.
I think they have an interesting mechanic in the way they multiply. It just really unbalances the action economy pretty quickly, which I think is a lot of fun to face off as a player. Like, I like things that have specific strengths and weaknesses. So knowing like, oh, I can't use this spell, so I have to do something else creative. I don't know, I like that, although I don't like being in danger. Just in general. So yeah, we were facing off against these jellies, we fought them off, but the bugbears appeared. Our wizard Silrona, who has been basically popping in and out while Ramon's been popping in and out, poofed away to a cowboy dimension, because he is a cowboy wizard. Mm-hmm. Leaving us on our own to face these bugbears. So of course combat started. Teek stepped forward. I've been trying to be a bit gross with Teeks, but she's also the team mom, so as much as she will press a digitation to clean someone up, she will also vomit a swarm of insects, which helped to sicken some of the bugbears. Fallum moved up, landing blows. Kavo got a pretty big hit in. I've got a lot of play-by-play notes here for some reason.
It was intense. We all could have died, and you need to make sure that everybody knew how we died, right? Like, cool.
So yeah, Kavo and Fallum were doing a lot of work to help protect the team. The bugbears were having some trouble landing damage on them. One actually got a negative roll, which of course meant that he accidentally hit an ally from behind, and that ally then punched him back.
Tim.
Yeah, that's a fun thing I've been enjoying in this game. Something I'm probably going to borrow.
I just think it adds a fun dynamic to the intensity of some fights, where it's like friendly fire by the enemies.
Yeah. That's like the fun part about Pathfinder, that you could roll a negative number and it's just like, well, here's this chaotic moment right now. Something bad is gonna happen to you and your friends. Like,
yeah, like it's worse than just getting a 1. You've got minus.
Minus.
I like that, Tim. You've been using that to represent something terrible happened more so than just you miss.
Thanks.
It adds more personality to the characters and to a fight. But at that moment, right after that, Kavo got downed by a crit and hit the ground, which is pretty scary. Every party has that one party member that is like point and shoot, and whatever's at the other end is going down.
Yeah. It's the I think in one of Matt Colville's game, I think it's his one he has in his big mega city. They call it the Chainsaw because their whole mercenary band's called the Chain, and it's like that's like the acronym I put to like all of those kind of big beefy characters who are just like, okay, point me in the thing that needs to be killed, right? It's just like, you know, so the like chainsaw of the group.
There's definitely one of those in the Crown of Dragons game, and it's like, how do I deal with you?
You just put him in a pit and be like, all right, bye. Like, I'm gonna beat up your friends now.
Well, Kava was currently in that pit, although Teeks was able to stabilize him. Fallon was fighting a bugbear, but couldn't land a particular strike on him. But he was able to land the second attack as he swung his shield a couple of times. That bugbear already had like a massive wound from Kavo, so it went down pretty easily. Another one came at Fallon, but it hit the shields. One of them... So whenever Soul Ronan disappears, he leaves a horseshoe behind, which usually he will appear at whenever he comes back. But we forgot to pick it up because fight started and we just totally forgot it. So one of them picked up the horseshoe.
No.
Started running away with it.
Sure did.
Like, if those guys don't get the horseshoe back, then, you know, you're going to appear in some random goblin's pants.
It's going to be a bad day for that goblin, man.
So yeah, that bugbear was trying to run off until Bren attacked it. The other tried to... Yep.
Oh, I was just going to say, Bren just beats the thing to death.
Yeah, it was a one punch, I believe.
Classic Bren.
Very classic. So yeah, Bren was able to take that bugbear down, but there was another one nearby. Teeks had to spend some time getting Kavo back on his feet, because, you know, I'm the party healer. That's what I do. And then I stand back and let you guys deal with everything else. Fallon was in the middle of grappling a bugbear. Kavo got back to his feet, swung at a prone enemy with his pickaxe, and then swung into another, just putting guys down. Another one tried to... I hope people are interested in this bow-by-bow payback, because I'm trying to paint the scene of how hectic this fight was. Another one tried to run, but Fallon managed to get it and knock it back prone. And the one with the horseshoe was still in the middle of fighting Bren. Lost a tooth and an eye socket before Bren landed the final punch. Teeks tried to Ray of Frost, and it was totally cool. It totally worked, and she totally didn't miss.
That's not what I've got in my notes.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're better at this. I'll trust you.
Yeah, no, I just left like a layer of ice above, on a wall above one of the prone bugbears, which was quickly taken care of by Fallon and Kavo. Fallon did a victory scream, which was pretty sweet, and Teeks did some healing, which actually worked this time. Then Fallon and Bren got to do a cool bro fist. So with the horseshoe recovered, we went to rest in a room that was nearby. I believe this was one of the rooms that had like a bunch of beds in it. Although one door was broken, so we had to like stop it up with more beds, and the horseshoe was put on a bed.
So if I come back, I'll just be in the bed.
Yep.
You guys are so sweet.
I don't remember whose idea that was, but it was nice. So yeah, we patch up, we take watch. We do hear some sounds. Bren particularly heard some groaning nearby, something hitting against the door and then walking away. He woke Thalum, but the sound stopped. So Thalum was just like, what the hell? I went back to sleep. Leading to a quiet night. We got up, we did some healing, and, dungeon crawling stuff. So we went to investigate where the jellies came from, and we started just like, again, this area, the way it was that we were playing it in Roll20 was just that as we walk through an area, it gets revealed and we see where the tunnel leads and everything like that. But of course, it's like this massive cavern map. So we'll see where a tunnel goes, and it's like, oh, this goes back to where we came in, or this goes back to this other room, and things like that. We did get back near the entrance, but we didn't see a sign of Gundren at the time. Kavo thought he might have been the one making noise last night. Thalum assumed he just went to town or something like that. We did see some signs of rotted blood on the door at about human head height, which we would soon discover came from a zombie. But at that point, we split up. I don't remember why we split up here, but we did.
Yeah, just you hanging out too much together. It's like, no, we gotta go separate. Like, that always happens with this part. It's always like we're all working together for a while, and everyone's like, "No, I'm done with this," and just like two groups.
Yep. So the bros, Thalum and Bren, they went one way, coming across a Grick. Kavo and Teeks went another way, just looping around in some tunnels. Until we ended up at a dead end. And it was at that point that Silrona returned from the cowboy dimension wearing wizard jeans.
Oh. Yeah, I think I was wearing wizard jeans because I gave Bren my pants because I broke their pants. So
yes. So you come back with pants from another dimension.
Interdimensional pants, yes.
I just let you guys do whatever. Really. I have no complaints.
Tim has a very, very long leash with us. He's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, sure, you can have interdimensional jeans.
You just got to work it into the story. That's my only. You can't just have a thing. You got to tie it in somehow. That's like my only stipulation.
If you can convince Tim, he'll allow it.
I am a big fan of these pants. Hopefully they have some cool cowboy magic powers.
I think they're just regular jeans, man.
Oh.
But they're comfy.
Oh, well, that's good. So yeah, we made pretty quick work of the Grick with Thalum grappling it, Bren punching it, and Silrona doing a Ray of Frost, stealing Teeks' moves.
I'm pretty sure I just shout out, I'm Teeks! Like every time I do something that you can do.
It did escape the grapple and went into stealth. But we caught up with it later, and Bren just landed the one punch. And so Rona had a pair of pants to give to Bren as well. As well as like this small set of like jeans for deputy, like jean overall kind of thing. Deputy being Silrona's rat familiar, who is also a rat lawyer.
Who also is like the best diplomacy on the entire party. Which also, thanks Tim, I appreciate you working with this tomfoolery.
You just created the character entirely before I could stop you, and then at that point it was like, I'm not going to make him rework the whole thing. I mean, that rat... Spoiler for... I mean, it's all spoilers, but that rat was supposed to be Glassstaff's, like, he could see through it and watch everything that the rat could see. And then all of a sudden, you'd completely respect it, and it's like, okay, fair enough.
Hey, it's a new wizard, right? Like,
I'm not complaining. It's just, it's worked out in our favor. It's helped you survive a green dragon.
yeah, it helped us negotiate with a angry necromancer. Like, it's.
Oh yeah,
it's
totally.
Deputy. Also, the spawning of many memes. Like, it's definitely all around a good. It's a good character.
Yeah, truly the MVP of this party with no name.
Right.
So yeah, did some healing up, and we moved on, finding some water in a cave. At which point, Phalem saw something and gave Bren a rope so we could dive in. Kavo took watch while Phalem saw a skeleton beneath the water with something in his hand. He made it back to shore with a wand and platinum rings with some decoration, but it was hard to tell what. Silverona was able to identify the wand as a wand of magic missile, and Phalem gave one of the rings to Teeks, which she very much appreciated and probably blushed a bit.
Wait, aren't you guys married now? I'm pretty sure we all said you were married.
Is that how it happens? I mean, I don't know. Teeks had a thing for the bad boy Nigel. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I guess Teeks is in the middle of a triangle now.
Oh man, this is crazy.
So we moved on, finding a door, and a split in the tunnels. There was a dead end near there, and the door led to a barracks for the bugbears, which I think might have been empty at the time.
Yes, because you killed all of the bugbears previously, because they all ran out to find you when you were being loud.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we say half the party is stealth team, it's not that stealthy.
No one's stealthy.
It's only stealthy in comparison to the other half of the team who are actively breaking doors down before knocking.
Yeah. Yeah, one team is Team SWAT, the other one's Team Stealth. That's like how it is. One team's like FBI open up, like
basically. So yeah, after that, so this is when we got into what was sort of the final boss of the dungeon, because we came upon a set of double doors and a voice that mentioned that it could hear us outside already. So we opened the doors dramatically to find a giant spider. So the time that we've spent here, since at least when we first rescued some people from the Red Brand and had that wizard duel, we've been sort of on the trail of someone going by the moniker of Black Spider, who we found out Glassstaff was working with and had some other connections around Phandalin. It turns out that the Black Spider was a giant spider.
and we're like, wow, I thought that was just a nickname.
Nope.
I have a confession to make. It was just a nickname of the guy that turns up later. But an hour before the session, I was like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if there was actually just a big black spider and he used throw voice, so you guys thought it was the big guy, and it was just the other guy using throw voice. It was just a regular spider.
What?
It was just a regular spider. Nice.
I like that. That was really fun because
that was quite the fake out, man. Because well, you go ahead, Calvin. Go
I mean, again, you come in expecting one thing and no, it's completely something else, and at the same time, when it hits, it's like, that totally makes sense. I don't know why I would have expected someone calling themselves a black spider to not be a literal giant spider.
But how did they write that note? That's why afterwards I was like, wait a minute, a handwritten note.
Yeah, none of you asked about this, but you would at the time. But if you actually asked, it would have been yeah, it was clearly obvious.
Just caught up in the moment, man.
Yeah, no, it was literally an hour before that session, and I just thought, right, I've got to write this up really quickly, get some stats thrown together, and do a rush job.
That was the right move, because you really got us, man.
Yeah. I'm imagining Silverona 2 days later just suddenly sitting up and be like, wait, how did he write that note?
That's canon now.
Perhaps there's more to this web than we know. Or he just figured it out.
So, anyway, you walk in. There's a big black spider facing you. What did you guys do?
Well, the spider also had the unconscious bodies of Gundren and his surviving brother Nundro. Phalum tried to start some negotiations for part of the mine, but was unable to make an agreement between the Black Spider and Kavo, who was looking for the mine for the gold dragon that his people worshipped. So, bit of an impasse there. Kind of some trouble for Bren, who had a fear of spiders and was trying to avoid having a reaction. And he stopped to drag Gundren out. And then things kind of exploded, quite literally, when Silrona dropped a fireball.
Haha! Finally! I was like, I think we leveled up, and I was like, yes! Fireball, please! I finally did it.
It's a little concerning how excited you are for fireballs.
I'm just saying, Fireball's like, out of all like the spells in the Dungeons and Dragons / Pathfinder, Fireball is like the classic, like fucking, you're a wizard, you learn Fireball. Doesn't matter what wizard you are, just learn Fireball. Thing's crazy. Every time it's always a little bit overpowered for whatever level you get it at.
Yeah, it's like a whole ton of d6s.
It's huge, and the range is like 400 feet, which is like, why? Like, which battle mat is 400 feet? Like, what? It's crazy.
Just point to whatever you can see and explodes.
Yeah. So yeah, I blew up the room.
Yep, and then things just kicked off. A bugbear attacked Phalum, while another one stomped over Nundro to fight Kavo, leaving Nundro going from unconscious to dying. Phalum got trapped in a spider web. The spider attacked Bren with some poison. Phalum was grappling the bugbear and swinging his shield at the spider. Bren managed to overcome his fear to punch one of the smaller spiders out. And Teeks was just there doing support stuff, including casting guidance on Phalum and putting a flaming sphere on the black spider to hopefully be a pain. And then we did some massive damage in there with Silrona casting 9 magic missiles, and Kavo, of course being Kavo, landing a powerful final blow on the black spider. But we weren't out of danger yet, because there were still some spiders around. Spiders that were continuing to mob on top of Phalum, who was being, like, poisoned and taking damage. A drow came through. So I'm trying to remember, like, what this drow was up to, because this drow, they came by, this well-dressed drow, shot Silrona with a magic missile, said that the spider was hard to come by, and then Phalum moved up to attack them. Teeks was there just to help Gundren get back to his feet. Silrona was firing missiles at the spider. Kavo, again, like I think I might have told this out of order, but Kavo did a crit with 63 damage, kind of flattening Black Spider. And just utterly destroying that creature. The bugbears at that point surrendered, although the spiders, they just kept fighting until they were all taken down. The Dwarven brothers embraced once they were awake, and they did like a little bit of an ugly cry.
Everybody ugly cried. Everybody was like, it's over. We saved them.
We saved the city. And then we had to get into some looting. So there was a statue in the back of the room, which had eyes that looked like emerald but were actually glass. Phalum did stop to thank the statue rather, for the good fortune. So I wrote here in my notes, and I don't remember the context of this, but I wrote a note about a person named Nessar. I think that was the drow that showed up.
That's the name of the actual black spider, and he was the guy who came out from behind a pillar and just started fighting.
Mm-hmm. Apparently had the black spider written on his underwear.
Yep. Also canon now.
So, we start looking around. There's some loot, some potions, some cloaks, some staffs. There's a key with an anvil-shaped head, which didn't really... I don't think it went into the statue. There was a sack on a nearby table that had some, like, coins and gems in it, which Thalum assumed was an offering, but it had black spider's writing on it. So as we're inspecting the statue, like, we pick up on some magic near it, and there was a nearby priest's room that was converted into a torture room. So Silrona, who was also looking at that statue, went over to it to take the eyes out of it. Unfortunately, he couldn't get it done, so Brennan Cavo gave it a try, and once the eyes on this statue broke, the roof of the room began to collapse while we were in there.
Yeah, I didn't expect that to happen. I was like... Yeah, well, it wasn't my fault, you know. I went in there, I rolled my dice, I failed, I was going to walk away from the whole situation, you know.
Yeah, rather than it happening a few minutes earlier. Totally not your fault.
I was like totally out of the room too. I was like, God, I was like, all right, I guess that's it. Like, it's not my fault these guys wanted to try again.
So while the roof is falling down, to no one's fault, the dwarves got split, Nunjo got pinned under some rocks. We were able to pull him into the other room, where Silrona and Teeks tried to mend his leg. We did have to give him the potion that we found, and there were some very gross sounds as his leg reinflated from being crushed.
Ooh.
And yeah, it was a fairly tense situation at the time, as I recall, trying to get the dwarves out of there. I was partially worried about Teeks' safety, but I was also partially like, Teeks gets by pretty easy in combat most of the time because she stays away. So it's fine if she's in danger now. She has the HP for it.
Yeah, I think it's like crazy that, you know, we did the final fight, we beat up the final boss, but apparently there was just more to do afterwards, and I was like, what? Because like I liked it, but it was like, personally, I would have just been like, all right, cutscene, let's go, we're out of here. Like,
that's a dungeon crawl though.
But like, I love that, like, after we beat everybody, beat the final boss, it's like, well, there's this other room you guys haven't been in. Like, why don't you try and almost die here again? Like, because that would have been the funniest end to the campaign, where we all just got crushed because we just messed with this one statue.
It would have been a pretty hilarious TVK. But yeah, so we got the dwarves out of there. We left them back at the entrance. There was one room left that we never explored. In it, we found a single zombie. At which point, it got, like, immediately blown apart by lightning from Teeks and Silrona. I think that was when I cast Horizon Thundersphere for the first time.
Oh.
Because I prepared it. I didn't use it because I was, like, doing support stuff.
I was like, what the hell is this spell? You just like yelled it out, like your anime attack, and I was like, what?
Yeah, it's from the new book.
Horizon Sphere.
There's a bunch of spells in that book that are like that. Like, they have these long anime names, and you can hold them for a whole turn, and they do more stuff.
Oh, dude, are you serious? This is like, you could charge it up, like you're charging your fucking Kamehameha. Like, yes. Yo, what? That's so good.
There's at least a couple like that. I forget the other one because it's not on a spell list that I have access to, but yeah.
Dude, okay, I gotta go look at that spell book. Gets thrown at some cool Kamehamehas, man.
As if he needs it. So there was one last door in the dungeon that we hadn't opened. We had lit up everything in the map except for this, 99% explored. And we opened it to find some centuries-old barrels of ale that had been evaporated.
Oh yeah, there was much weeping.
There was much despair. Brad fell to his knees. Thalum hugged Teeks.
Everybody was very upset.
Because all the ale was gone. When we got back, the dwarves asked if there was anything worthwhile, and we said, not anymore.
So somber of a moment. Like the funniest thing. Man, so how do you deal with this?
Well, I mean, that bit in particular, I think that's a nice add-on from the tip of the week, where it's like, oh, you know, if your players start getting encouraged to explore everywhere, because it's like, oh, there might be some rare, unique thing, then they're going to end up somewhere that ends up really disappointing as well, and there's just an entire room of evaporated ale.
The sadness. Nice.
Yeah, I that was a fun character moment for all of them. But that was the end of the Wave Echo Cave, and we returned to the town of Phandelver. Where, of course, we were celebrated for helping out, getting Gundren back. Sildar was very happy. Drinks all around. Sister Gorel was there, who we might be doing some work for at some point in the future. We didn't really finish the task that she set for us at the moment, but you never know. We could do some more stuff with her later. So there was celebration, of course. Silrona was just happy to have defeated the enemies, but Teeks, in a rat form after doing pest shape, was hanging out with Deputy inside of Bren's hood.
Just hanging out.
Yeah, I think they're going to be best buds now. But yeah, so the next day, we were all hungover, but Mayor Harbin showed up saying that the Rockseeker brothers, the dwarves, wanted to speak with us, and the mayor was, of course, unhappy about being used as a messenger.
I forget that guy.
Yeah, whatever. We don't need him. So we got up, mended some damage on Falem's shield. Nundro was able to hold himself up with a cane, but overall looked happy that he wasn't dead.
It's worth pointing out that it's been this is day 29 of this adventure, and he's been captured for nearly all of those days.
Yeah.
He's going to be pretty happy that he's not being tortured to death every day.
That's crazy.
I mean, not for you, because you joined the campaign a little later, or your character did rather. But yeah, since Teeks and Bren started off, this is day 29.
Wow, that's crazy. That's like I can't believe it. I mean, like, a month that seems like a very short amount of time for how ridiculous all the things happened, right? Like we did a lot in such a short period.
To be fair, there was a lot of traveling as well.
It's true.
So yeah, we were able to work out a deal with the dwarves, getting a share in the mines. They would hire people around town to start working in the mine again, and Kava would be able to bring some of his tribe in for negotiations. And then we had some brief conversations. Nundro took a note of Falem's tattoos, offering to make some magical tattoos for Phalem, which was something I believe you had discussed off stream before, or off game before.
Yeah, it was just something that he wanted to do when he turned level 5, but you all turned level 5 in the middle of the dungeon. And for the sake of realism, I'm not going to be like, suddenly you get a magical tattoo appear on your arm. So it was just something that we agreed, like, he could get it at the earliest opportunity.
Yeah. Which is awesome. Like, if you as a player see a thing you want, just communicate with your GM. Especially if you're going to be reading stuff like those new books. So yeah, we were now celebrated in the town. We do need to figure out a party name so they can, give us a proper celebration, because we deserve it. But that is about where the campaign ended. There's definitely some threads that are left. There's definitely some stuff Teeks wants to do that she might have to drag everyone else into, but that was us finding the lost mine of Timdelver.
Hey, you did it, guys.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm really excited for whatever we do next and whatever comes next to this game. I'm really enjoying the character and all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah. The party's
I'm really
nice.
thankful. No, I'm really thankful to you guys. Not only for going through all the teaching me how to play, because this is the first campaign game that I've ever run, and everything else. But also thank you for just relaying the story on here instead of me doing it, because it's way more interesting when you guys tell it.
I mean, it's an interesting story. That's like, I mean, like, I don't know. That's why I like keeping notes of things. Part of why, because then I get to recount these stories in some detail, because they're really fun, and I want other people to know how fun this game is. I want to brag about how much fun I'm having. And yeah, I guess I'm just at this point wondering, like, Tim, is there anything like you want to say on the finale of this campaign? Like, how do you feel? How do you feel about it, like, now compared to, I don't know, I guess the first session?
Oh man, this is where the questions come in. This is when you guys start asking me the heavy questions, isn't it? This is where Calvin gets his own back for all the. This is where Calvin gets his own back for all the sarcastic comments I've left on the Skyrim streams.
Yep.
No, I am definitely feeling much more confident. There's stuff that I need to be better at. There's stuff where I know this is an area I need to learn to be better. This is stuff that people are enjoying. But I'm way more confident now. So if someone's like, oh, I want to play a game, it's like, yeah, let's just do it. And I've actually started playing Phandelver with a friend of mine, IRL. And he was just like, oh, I fancy playing this. I didn't have any of the details to hand, so it was a quick, okay, let's jot some stuff down on paper. I can remember most of the introduction. Let's just see what we can do without having, the actual game to hand. And that went pretty well, actually, to say. I mean, it's a game I've already run, but confident enough with it that I didn't need the book in front of me and everything else. It was just like, okay, make sure I've got some of the key stat details off the website, and let's see how we go. Which is a big difference from, like, day, not even the first session, and I'm completely just asking you guys, what does HP stand for and stuff like that.
Definitely.
That was basically where I was when I started off. So it's it's come a long way.
Yeah, like I've been, because the way you started is like, you do have the campaign there, but you're converting it into a completely different system. It's not like you're starting off with a pre-written Pathfinder 2 campaign. You're starting off with a campaign for a completely different game, with a completely different economy, completely different creatures.
Yeah.
So
balancing
people
could be off and all that, right?
Yeah. So if people, anyone who's interested, Lost Mine of Phandelver is D&D 5th edition. I was given it from I think one of my family members found it in a charity shop for dirt cheap, and was just like, hey, here's the thing that you might like. It's got a picture of a dragon on the front, and it's sat in a cupboard until you guys were like, Tim, why don't you try being a GM sometime? So I was like, oh, I've got this, I'll start off. I would have run it like this, but you guys are far more familiar with Pathfinder 2e, so for the sake of getting assistance, it just made it easier to convert the game to 2e. It was actually a lot easier than I think it'd sound if anyone was trying to do this as a new player themselves. Not specifically this game, but in general. So it was mostly a case of, okay, all the story, you can carbon copy it. The only things you need to be aware of is your player's stat differences between the two different games, and the enemies are going to do completely different things, but for the most part, they've got a similar leveled counterparts between the two systems. So a zombie in one is going to be about the same level and do the same equivalent damage as a zombie in the other. So it seemed difficult in the first aspect, but it was pretty much just, okay, here's the thing, copy the stats over, it's fine. The only thing we ever really had trouble with was the actual economy of, oh, here you've got some gold, because in this game it's like, oh, you killed a zombie, here's 30 gold. And if you do this in D&D, that's fine, but you do that in Pathfinder 2, it's like, the hell?
Yeah, I was like, I just quit. I retire.
So it's like, oh yeah, you can find some diamonds in this. It's like, you got some diamonds. I've just bought myself a mansion.
Yeah, right. Like,
I don't need this.
Yeah, especially those low levels where it's just like a sword costs like 5 gold or something nuts. It's just like, what do you mean I have 30 gold? That's crazy.
Yeah, so that was something that I stumbled on very earlier on in the game, had a lot of difficulty with. Something I just make anyone aware if they were wanting to do things for the first time, that could be an issue. You'll need to scale back what you're giving people, or scale up if you're converting the other way around. But it's not a problem anymore. It's fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
that was
cool.
definitely one of the things I was like, I wouldn't know how that would work, because like with Pathfinder 1 to 2, I think it's around like 10, like in stuff in 2 is around like worth 10 to 15% what it was on the first game. But from D&D to that, like I don't know what a good conversion rate would be. So I was like, I don't know if this is going to work out, but you managed to make it like, it still feels rewarding, and we still had gold to get things we needed.
I never felt like, well, it's different playing like a magic user, right? Where like money's not so important, I guess, right? It's like, but I never felt like I was under-equipped to deal with anything, right? It's always was like I had enough firepower to do whatever, or enough, resources. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
cool.
But I certainly felt the same way. I like, for me, the resources I was running out of were like my own personal spells and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, our martial characters were doing pretty good.
Yeah, you're carrying the team. Shout out to Bren. I would say Kabo does a lot of damage, but like Bren somehow just surprises everyone every time. Like, I say Bren's MVP really, if we're gonna give out awards.
Yeah.
I mean, I already gave it to
but
Deputy, but
that's fair, actually. That's fair.
Sure.
I got to a point where I started thinking maybe Chibi's entered the stats wrong, because how does a ranger whose main thing is supposed to be archery do this much damage just by punching? And I followed it up with, I don't even care if it's wrong and it's cheating. I enjoy it so much, I'm gonna leave it. Because it's never something like, oh yeah, I've just done this really cool knockout punch. It's always like, I absolutely KO'd this zombie. The fist goes through its entire skull, out the other end. It's covered in brain, and you now need to find somewhere to clean up before you can eat your food.
yeah.
Yeah, it's always like a random. It's always just like a sucker punch and to just murder somebody.
Yeah.
Like it's always like a natural 20, max damage. Like it's always something like that. Like every time Bren's like, all right, I'm gonna throw hands. Like I think it's just like, I don't know, the character being the character at that point. It's not even about the rules, man. It's about like the lore of the game. How Bren Two Fists out here like smacking people.
Yeah, I think the dice decided that.
Yeah.
So Tim, where's your head at for like what you want to do next? Like, you don't have to get into like any plot specifics or anything, but
Sure.
when you're planning things at this point, like what do you feel is something that you want to keep in mind, or some details that you feel like you need?
Okay. So you will be glad to hear that the main story arc I have known for quite a while. And it's just a case of writing down the specific locations and that kind of thing. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. I'm not getting another written campaign and going to tag it onto this. This is the idea currently. Is it's going to be entirely my own created campaign for you guys, knowing what you like, which is making it a bit harder to come up with. I'm having some difficulty, but main campaigns wise, I'm tying into everyone's backstories for their character.
Oh, cool. So it's like a kind of maybe like there's like something that has to do with all of us, right? Like we're kind of going to the character backstories and
in one aspect or another. So Teeks' backstory is going to play a heavy part.
Nice.
Yay.
And it was that's led the framework for the rest of it. So Ramon, you may be happy to hear that there may or may not be a Cowboy Dimension escapade.
Nice. Definitely.
But
Give it to Winnet.
other stuff I'm gonna keep quiet on because it's gonna be a little bit too obvious. But I'm pretty sure that you guys are gonna enjoy it. What I'm having difficulty with is padding that out with the other things that happen. So main quest, fine, but then you've got all your little side quests, or you turn up here and there's a guy who's like, "Oh, my house is infested with spiders," or something, and it's how to pad everything out in a natural way.
That's true.
I guess. So that's something I'm having. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have got any suggestions on that.
Well, I know for a fact that Calvin does that with actual spacing and travel time. So like, he'll put one thing on one side of the map and the other thing on the other side of the map and be like, "Well, figure it out."
Yeah, especially for the game that we were playing, the Quest of the Fate Seer, which I do want to get back to. A lot of what I was doing was just taking ideas from a random travel table, and it was just, I would roll a thing, and sometimes it was a detail of like, here's a monster that shows up and you fight it, but most of the table was just like, here's some interesting detail on the side of the road. And then from there, I would just like improvise something and spiral out, and sometimes bounce off things players say, sometimes bounce off like, oh, there's this particular concept in this area, so maybe I'll just tie it into that real quick. For setting like, I don't know, it's like side quests and stuff, I mean, if you know what characters and NPCs might exist in a certain space, then they might just have a problem that needs solving that they can't do on their own. It could also just be like, there is one thing I like to do where I will see a neat creature in a book, and I'll be like, how do I get to a point where I get to play this thing? So
Yeah. I would just have like a section of like, you know, in notes or whatever, be like cool ideas, like, you know, just random things that like you could bump into, or like, as well as like I would go find like, you know, second edition modules or something, right? Like pamphlet size pieces of adventure, which is like a couple rooms, a couple bad guys, and be like, kind of get the gist of what's going on, and like bank those, just so like, you know, if I'm ever in a situation where it's like, all right, you guys are by the coast, I just quickly search coast or whatever, or like water or like cave, and be like, oh, here's this cool, you know, maybe 1 to 2 session thing that we can do in the meantime of like, you know, to getting just to kind of relief from the main quest. As well as like, I find that most of my games now, the best things, especially in the pirate campaign, is like when everything's character driven, where it's like we're focusing on someone's backstory or something like that. Gonna do that for a little bit, and afterwards we're gonna go do the main quest thing, and then go back and forth like that. And it really has like a pretty good rhythm where it's like, you know, and I try and build in like a downtime where you just get to talk to the NPCs for like, you know, half a session or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good advice. Thanks for that. Yeah, I suppose because random encounter tables, I've only been doing like, oh, you know, you've gone to sleep and maybe something happens at night, or you're on the road and maybe something attacks you on the road. So I guess to have a whole random encounter quest, or something more akin to that. Yeah, I'd not really considered that. That's
yeah, and like the encounter table could just be like a narrative encounter where it's like not even like a fight or anything, just like a cool thing that you find, or a cool thing that happens, or you know, weather or something, to like kind of have the players deal with it for like, you know, 30-40 minutes while like, you know, you're building some other port of your campaign, or like trying to find something else to like lead them somewhere else, just to kind of space it out so the journey still feels like a journey and not just like a bunch of cutscenes, I guess.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be a fight. It could just be like you see someone else on the road and they have some interesting quirk, or again, you see just something off the path, and it could be like another creature or whatever. It could be some interesting foliage or a neat looking carved rock.
Yeah,
okay.
As long as you're like, don't tell the party like you have to get somewhere very quickly, they will take the bait. Like if there's no like, if they're just needs to get to a place,
oh, don't worry
no,
about
like,
that.
timer. Yeah,
you
like,
will be persuaded. that you need to go somewhere.
Oh yeah,
No,
like
but it's
I
like-
feel like a character-driven game, you've definitely got like that focus and persuasion in.
Yeah. But it's,
I know one of
it's
the.
like...
Oh, sorry, Ramon, you first.
No, go ahead.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is with some of these ideas, I know one of the things that I'll need to, and I think I will include this as a. It can happen whenever, and it will be triggered as a random encounter, but I will then end up incorporating it through this. So a way back, I was like scrolling online, and then you see like, oh, there's a vampire hunting kit that's being sold at an auction, and it's like, oh, that looks neat, and it's got crazy guns and swords and potions inside it, like someone's made in like 150, 60 years ago, something, pretending that it's from 150 years ago, and it just looked neat. So I tagged you guys, and I was like, right, first one to reply gets it in the next game. And it was Calvin replied with for Teeks, so Teeks is going to get some vampire hunting kit, and I guess that's how that's going to get brought in.
I'm gonna blast.
Does that mean we have to hunt vampires?
I mean, you will do when that happens, because why not?
Oh no!
Do you not want to hunt vampires?
That sounds dope. What? Yes, please. I want to go out there and find Dr. Dracula.
Dr. Dracula. Okay, that's happening.
I am everywhere.
That's happening.
Oh man, I'm thinking about the stuff I gave you. I was like, oh no, were there vampires there? Oh no! Oh no! Yeah, no, I'm real excited.
We'll have him cross over from working with Gorilla with a human brain.
Yeah, if y'all haven't, be sure to check out the previous episode with Alex Thomas, where we made up a whole bunch of adventures with some random Silver Age, Golden Age comic book villains that were very silly. Very funny.
It was absolutely enjoyable to listen to.
Oh yeah, we gotta. I want to expand on that, but I really want to bring it back at some point. I don't know how, or if it'll just be like a superhero thing again. But like, I really want to. I really want to do that video again. So yeah, is there anything else you want people to know about your plans for the future at this point, or how you might be structuring this differently or anything like that?
About this game specifically for you guys, I think it's going to be more tailored specifically for you guys. That's what I'm wanting to do at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how good that would be for other people who are listening. So I guess maybe, if you're a seasoned GM, it's probably something that you're going to be familiar with anyway. But if you're starting to get into it and you're there thinking, oh, maybe I want to run a campaign, sure, run something that's printed. But once you've got an idea of what your players like, and they will let you know what they like doing. Like, I haven't been able to stop these guys and the other players just like message and be like, oh, that was really fun, or oh, can we do this at some point in the future? So your players will let you know. Just roll with it, and incorporate that into something that you're gonna do, even if you weren't planning on doing it before, and everyone will have a far more enjoyable time for it. So I guess that's gonna be the takeaway that I give there.
Yeah, that is great advice. Tim, you've really progressed extremely quickly as a GM. I think faster than I had, definitely. So I'm very excited for whatever you do next.
I had great mentors.
Aw.
Oh, that's nice, man. Because
The compliments
honestly,
part of the show.
it's crazy every time. I talk to you guys. Actually, Rebecca started her campaign as pretty much around the same time as you, and I'm immediately I was impressed and floored, and I was like, damn, I suck.
Rebecca's campaign sounds incredible, and I just want her to do I've never met Rebecca, I don't know Rebecca, and I just want her to do more so I can hear you guys talk about it.
Oh yeah, she is working on it.
It's that level of enjoyable. I'm not even part of it, and I can't wait to find out what happens next.
Yeah, I really want. I really hope we can save the school.
I just want to make it to summer, man. Summer break.
I love the stakes in that campaign.
It's so good.
Okay. Well, Tim, there is something else you also ran recently.
Yes.
A one-shot game. Well, so far just one session of a game that was a bizarre adventure.
Yes. So last time you had me on, which was episode 50. My first time with you guys inviting me was episode 27. But in episode 50, I said that there are a few different systems that I'd like to run. One of which was JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which Calvin hadn't started watching at that point. We since peer pressured him. He's watched everything that's come out, and he's reading a lot of stuff as well.
Yep.
It's fantastic. Calvin is a great guy to peer pressure. You can make him invest time in things.
Yes, we made him do a lot of things that was definitely not.
You have. You made him watch Evangelion, which I maintain was a bad decision.
That is fair, but you know, it's one step, okay? It's like you gotta get through the bad stuff to get the good stuff out of that.
No, the good stuff happened first, and then it all went bad. But never mind, we'll not get into that. This is a tabletop podcast and not an anime podcast, which seems to happen whenever I come along. Except for the next, however long the rest of this episode is, it will be. Because we're going to be talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the RPG, and the version I was using was 1.4. So I came around with the idea to, I mean, partly just because I love JoJo. It's just exactly what I want. It's so over the top. It's funny. There's ridiculous fights that are like crazy dramatic. It's just everything that I want. And there's traveling as well, which is what Calvin wants, which is part of why I recommended it to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I came up with a story that I thought, okay, how can I fit it into this? And when I'd started to see stuff other people had done, where they'd set it far into the future, so they could basically do what they want, I was like, no, I don't like that. I don't want to be in X city and everyone's got all this crazy stuff. So I thought, okay, I'm going to set it a little bit after the Stardust Crusade section. You're all going to have your own unique characters. I'm not introducing characters, certainly none of the main Joestar family into the game. It's kind of its own thing that could, in theory, exist within the JoJo universe, which was my intention.
Yeah.
And for the first session, because it's so completely different to Pathfinder or D&D, people who've played lots of different tabletop systems, I'm sure it's maybe not that big of a difference to them, but for someone who's only done Pathfinder so far, it was a huge leap to try and jump from one to the other and understand how the mechanics work. So I wanted the first session to essentially be a practice. So the players would gather, they're trained by a guy in a little test fight. You can practice all of your stuff and get the idea of how things work, and then following sessions would be, okay, here's the actual story. I mean, the training session is written to be part of the story, but it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. So that was the idea of that.
Yeah, the danger room scenario we talked about last podcast, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you just let your players just do the mechanical stuff, go through the motions of rolling the dice or moving your characters or choosing your abilities, and then seeing how it actually plays out and seeing if I made the right choices or whatever, right?
So I think that's exactly what it was. And it could have been that, this is perfect, let's carry on, or it could have been a mess, and it turned out a little bit closer to the latter. So it was Calvin and Chibi turned up, Ramon wasn't available to make it, so we just had a little test session, and it was, I am not going to knock the system at all. It is purely a case of us trying to get to grips with it, and I think there are things that for our sake I need to fiddle with and change and make more usable for us. I'm a bit of a dum-dum, and some of it was a bit complicated, so I need to simplify it for me. If I don't understand something, that's going to fall down to you guys to not understand it, because I can't explain it to you. So that's some of that. I don't know how much in particular you want me to, or like if there's any particular points you want me to hit on, or if you just want to explain what happened. I mean, what were your thoughts, Calvin?
Oh, well, I could just give like a brief summary of what happened, and then when we get into the combat part, we can maybe talk about the mechanics a bit more. Because there was some of the mechanical stuff that I did like that I made some notes on.
Sure.
But it's been a while, so I might need some refresher on that. But we did start off...
I can talk about that.
We started off on a cruise ship on the way to Cairo. So it was me and Chippy again. Chippy was playing a character by the name of Lev Pankiv, whose stand. So do I need to explain JoJo stands to people? Like,
it's probably
like
worth
psychic,
in the
they're like
basics.
psychic ghost dudes that punch people with psychic ghost powers, but they're not always dudes. They could just be like plants or like spaghetti or something. It doesn't
Or
matter.
like a car. It's like, oh my, I guess how people might say, oh, my spirit, I have a spirit animal of this dog and it can follow me around, and it's like, no, actually, the spiritual part of you manifests into like a car that can run people over, and no one else can see it unless they also have this power.
Except for when they can.
Yeah, but shush.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's basically it. So, Lev's stand was called Whiplash, and which I don't know. I assume it was a musical reference as well.
Yes. So after some point in JoJo, everything's related to or named after various music things. It happens a lot earlier on as well, but later it's like, oh yeah, nearly all the stands are named
gets
after
less subtle.
A band, or way less subtle. So yeah, and that's part of how I've planned the future campaign. So the various NPCs and enemies that you'll be encountering, if they're particularly important, they are named after a singer or a band, and their stand is named after one of the songs.
Oh, that sounds so awesome. Oh my god.
Yeah. The first one, who I tell you what, let's carry on through, and then I'll explain it if no one picks it up.
Okay. Yeah.
So
when we get to that
you're on a
part,
cruise ship.
I'll mention that guy. I don't know specifically what Whiplash was a reference to, though.
This is where I show my extreme lack of musical knowledge that comes straight offhand.
Fair play. Okay, I was just wondering if you knew, because I didn't know.
I cannot remember if this is a band or it's Metallica. That's it.
Okay.
I knew it was going to be heavy metal because Chip is a big metal fan. But I just couldn't remember if it was a song or a band. No, it is Metallica's Whiplash.
Okay. So yeah,
there's going to be a lot of people listening who are just groaning that none of us got that.
To be fair, there's a lot of things called Whiplash. So my character was Vincent Kavinsky, because I was making a reference to the musician Kavinsky, mostly one particular album of his. So my stand was called Night Call, after a song off that album.
Man, like Araki just figured it out. Like the more we're just kind of exploring this space, the more like I'm like I can see him like in his bed just like turning around being like, oh yeah, this guy has to be cool. Like I gotta find the cool song for this guy and all this stuff. Like shit. Like the dude figured it out. Like
yeah, there's definitely some very, very silly stand names. There's one in particular that I like, but that part hasn't been in the anime yet, so I'm not going to spoil it, but it's really fun.
No spoilers.
So yeah, Night Call is the name of the stand. So this is taking place a couple months out of the Stardust Crusaders arc 3. We're on a cruise ship heading to Cairo. Lev was feeling a little sick, and Vincent noticed, so he tried to help out. So my stand's main ability is to help with or hinder balance of enemies. So it can help me like balance on like vertical surfaces or whatever, but it can also disrupt balance in other people. So my thought was like, if I help this guy feel more balanced, maybe he won't feel as sick. Which I had some moderate success with. But at that point, this new guy showed up. Mr. Apples, I believe was his name.
Yep.
And he explained to us that we were there to help out the Speedwagon Foundation because some of their agents had been found with bite marks on them.
Whoa.
Vampiric marks, although there shouldn't be any vampires because
spoilers.
There shouldn't be any vampires because that arc ended. I'll have to bleep out myself earlier. So he said that he was going to take us to the gym on the ship, and some awesome funky music started playing in the background, wherein we would get a chance to experiment with our powers so we could get a good look at what we're capable of. And that's when Mr. Apple summoned his stand, House of Fun, which isn't humanoid, but it actually looks like a big bouncy castle. And the way House of Fun functions is that you cannot get hurt inside of House of Fun.
Well, more specifically, you can get hurt, but once the stand retracts, everything that was inside goes back to the normal. So you would get hurt, but then you would be like insta-healed once you recalled the stand.
I will update my notes.
This just sounds like a real plot, like actually. Like,
it really does.
Right.
It does sound like a thing that could happen in JoJo.
I will not give myself such airs to say what I'm doing is as good, but I have thought a lot about the plot to make it as fully fleshed out as possible.
But it legitimately honestly, if you just told that to somebody that this was in JoJo's, they're gonna be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like,
that is a very high compliment. Thank you.
It's just, that sounds so cool. Okay, so what's Chibi's power? I'm excited to see what Whiplash does.
Yeah, so Whiplash is basically its head and limbs can kind of detach and move around independently. So if you think kind of like Raymond.
Okay.
So it's like, head's not attached to the body. And so they can all move around independently up to 10 to 15 meters from the main body of the stand and do its own thing. So being a massive metal head, you've got this like giant metal head with metal wire dreads that can like spin round like a top and just go crashing into people, while the other two arms are say like strangling someone else. And it was like, it was crazy. I loved it. It's like, as soon as you said, I'm like, yes, we need to have this. So that's that kind of stand, which was then attacking Vincent's stand of Nightcall.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into that a bit more?
Sure. I can maybe describe some of the abilities as such. Like the way that they function is that we have to create the description of them, but they also sort of impact different, how best to describe?
Different stats and scenarios, right? Like interactions, I would say.
Essentially.
Yeah.
It was sort of like you choose your action, you choose what relevant stat to roll, the opponent rolls in response. There's ranges of success based on that. There is the mechanic of momentum, which I think applies depending on how many successes and failures you have.
That might be worth talking about in a little more depth than a brief cover.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think. So, momentum, if you've seen JoJo, then someone's going to be like dominating in a particular fight, and it's like, oh my god, how will I recover? I'm about to die! And then all of a sudden it's like, psych! I fooled you. You thought I was doing this, but I was secretly doing this other thing, and now the tables have turned, and I've got you right where I want you. And it allows for that kind of thing to happen in the actual combat. Yeah.
So good. Play the music, just like.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's funny you say that. I have because music is such a big part of it. I'm using Roll20 and I don't have the paid version, but if I did, I would be having this additional script. That means that every time your character releases the stand, it would be playing the theme music. I might buy the paid version of Roll20 just for doing this when we get around to playing. So you can each have your own theme music. But for now, it's only got theme music for a specific battle scene that loads on the page, which is fine. So yeah, with the momentum, if you can take a fight, and unlike Pathfinder D&D, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna try and attack that person, and then you succeed or miss. Every action, the opponent gets to react to you in one manner. So you might say, so you've got 4 basic stats. You've got power, speed, durability, and precision, and you can use any of them to decide how you're going to do things. So in the examples that it gives you in the book, you're on the top floor and you need to get to the bottom floor. You might use speed to run down the staircase. You might use durability to like jump and land in the trash can. You might use power to be like just jump all the way down and then do a power punch into the floor to like take the hit and not get hurt. So it's really descriptive in what you can do. So in a fight aspect, you say, I want to do this to my opponent using this particular stat, and your opponent's like, I'm going to react to them doing this by doing this other thing, and then you roll and you see whatever happens. Depending on you win or lose momentum, which is the name of the thing. It's just a number that goes from +3 to -3. If you're in the positive momentum section, you get to be like, I suspect that you're about to use... So in JoJo, it's like, Joseph in particular is like, now you're going to say, how did he do that? And then the character says, how did you do that? What? I knew you were going to say this. So the way that translates in this game is if you are, you've been winning so much, you can then be like, I'm going to predict you're about to use your power. And then if your opponent's like, well, I'm going to try and use my power, you automatically win your roll. You don't even need to roll. You've won whatever your action was going to be. Now, your opponent might still win and counter whatever that is, but just by guessing that right, you've done it. Or your opponent can choose to use something else. If you are losing momentum in a fight, and so it's also worth saying that +3, -3, that it adds on to your roll. So if you're doing well, you get a +3 to everything that you roll. If you're doing badly in the fight, you're getting a negative to everything that you roll. So if you're on negative momentum, you can feint. So it's like, oh man, my opponent's just hit me and I'm going to take 8 damage. But it's like you can double or nothing and go like, psych, I'm actually fainted, and it was all part to lure you in close, and now I'm gonna swipe away your legs and you're gonna fall off this pillar. And if you win, you win both. It's like, oh yeah, you would have been hit, but actually you've just counteracted it. But if you lose, you take the damage from both.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's super cool. I'm like, oh.
I think it's a really enjoyable way of changing completely turning the tables, because if you're in a regular game, it's just you might get to a point where the numbers are just in your favor or against you, so you're just rolling and it's just a case of wearing down the enemy until you get enough hits in. Whereas this, you can completely turn the tables if you require to.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like really dynamic, especially if like a couple bad rolls, it just kind of leans into like the drama more, right? So it's like, there's always a chance for a comeback, like in JoJo's, like always.
Yeah, and if you don't get stuck with this negative bonus forever, because if you accrue the full +3 or -3 and you're having a difficult time, you can do an additional thing where you can be like, oh, I'm gonna put it all on the line. So maybe your arm's broken and you can't fight so well, and you lose it badly, and you're like, take this, and you kind of just power through it, and so you get to reset the momentum back to 0. You don't necessarily take damage from your injury, depending on what it is, and you can just go full out against that opponent. So you can try and turn things away that way. You might be losing in that regard, and then it's okay, I'm just going to try and give you everything that I've got. Again, I think it's another great way to switch up the game.
Yeah, that was the thing that I liked. Like, with the addition of momentum adventures, which are the thing you do when you're at maximum momentum either way, it really helped, like, the seesaw, like, balance of a fight. Like, it wasn't just, I have this one thing I can roll all the time and I can do well at it. Because, like, your opponent might predict it, especially, like, in a PvP thing where it's, like, your opponent's predicting it, and then it's like, well, now I can't use my, like, for me, my precision was pretty good. Just because my character is based on, like, balancing. But when I couldn't use that, then it's like, well, I have to use something that's not as powerful now. Well, I mean, my precision and speed were pretty high, but, like, I couldn't use the thing I was relying on. I think that's really great in terms of just keeping you on your toes, keeping you thinking of, like, well, I can roll this thing, but how do I make it work for my character? I did also like being able to name our own moves. That was fun, too.
Yeah. Gotta be done.
Nice.
Yeah. There's another trait which we didn't get into, but it is part of the mechanics of the game, where, so, normally, if you think in a classic tabletop, your character might have things that they are particularly striving to do, or particularly afraid of, or something else. So, in the Fateseer campaign, my character Delorfek is terrified of and absolutely despises the undead from being stuck hanging in a frozen cavern with a load of zombies below him for 3 days. Whereas in this, you can use those kinds of traits to boost your character's ability in certain situations. So if you have a particular goal of trying to acquire certain information about your family, or something to that effect, and there is an action where you can go and do that, you will gain, say, +3 to that roll. And if you resist doing that to do something else, so it's like, oh, there's a thing that my character wants to do, but my team's in trouble, you might get a penalty to not doing the thing that you want, even though it's better for the rest of the party if you do it. Other characters can call you out on it, and they might be like, I'm going to try and trigger your character to react to something I'm doing by, say, you know, let's say they know that your character's after, or they think your character's after these documents. They might be like, I've got these documents, watch as I burn them, and your friends are over there getting beaten to death. And then it's like, well, crap, now I'm in a situation where I've got to do one or the other, and I'm gonna I'm gonna gain some to my roll to go to the thing that my character wants, or I'm gonna have to resist it and suffer a penalty but do the right thing. So we didn't get to use that because it was only a test thing, but I think that is something that I have every intention of using against you.
Oh man, that sounds hard.
But it does mean that, you know, in things where, you know, you guys want to achieve and do stuff, it will help you go and do that thing.
Yeah, it's sort of taking, like, character motivations and ideals and making them, like, a mechanic as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which again, like, is another thing I appreciate. Like, getting into new systems, sometimes it takes a while to learn them, but I think what helps is trying to figure out, well, what is this trying to do? Like, what sort of story is this trying to tell with this die roll, or, like, action is it trying to represent with this die roll? And just getting the sense of, like, oh, it wants the battles to feel like they're going back and forth, and you want people to be encouraged to deal with things that are tied to what their characters are. I think that helps make it easier to understand, and I think it's interesting how the game approaches doing that.
Yeah. So I think that's more or less covered what we were doing, but we did have some problems, you know, doing it in practice for the first time. Some of that is just based on, you know, us learning a new system, and I think some of the other bits were how we were playing, and there was a little bit of difficulty. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
We can mention a little bit. I did just look at the timer and I was like, oh, we've been going for a while.
Sure.
We're having a lot of fun.
120. Yeah, that is okay. I'll try and be brief. I mean, some of the problems that we had, which I think is stuff that I should probably explain to you guys better, or I would explain better if we were to do it again. You guys were trying to be chivalrous and be like, my character is physically attacking your character, and you're human, so you do like weak damage, or your stands were fighting each other instead of your stands are like super maxed out. You're both doing really heavy damage, and you're but also really defensive, so you're not actually taking that much. Whereas really, you should have had one of your stands attack the player and actually do damage that way. So you kept fighting for ages without doing a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas you should have really tried to attack the player or the stand user, as they do in JoJo. And then it's like, oh yeah, Star Platinum's just like going ora on a physical dude, and he just KOs the guy.
Yeah.
Had you done that, it might have gone a little bit quicker. So yeah, that was part of it. Or if you were both succeeding, trying to get so when you're fighting each other, like I said before, everyone reacts. Now if you both roll a pass, your attacks cancel each other out, which is great if you're like, I'm going to punch him in the face, I'm going to react by punching him in the face, and then you both succeed, and if it cancels out, then either you both punch each other in the face, or your fists meet in the middle and punch each other in like one of those cool scenes where like there's a little explosion in the background and everything else.
Yeah.
But with you guys doing it, it was more like, okay, I'm going to try and punch this person, I'm going to try and dodge, and then you both succeed, and it's like, how does that work? So I think I need to tinker with that.
Fair. Yeah. Yeah, but because they both count as successes towards building momentum, right? If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah.
Yes. For the momentum side, it was fine, but in terms of me, who's maybe a bit too much of a stickler for the how does this action work in reality, rather than the just hit miss. I mean, I know that's something that you guys have said previously you enjoy about my games, where it's like I will describe the thing that just happened, and maybe for this it dragged it on a little bit. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, specifically in this interaction, like you could have had like the punch would have been successful, other than the fact that they dodged out the way, but because they dodged left or whatever, that's exactly where you need to be. So like both momentums go up because the guy, one person wasn't hit, but the other one got an advantageous position, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of like the thing I'm thinking about when trying to describe that kind of double success scenario, but it's not like a clash, it's like the opposite happening. Yeah, that kind of deal. But yeah. All right. For the sake of future Calvin.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but yes.
I know. This is. Oh, sorry. No.
You go ahead. No, you go ahead if you have a conclusion.
No, I was. There's just a thing that I wanted to do before the end of the episode.
Ooh, yes.
It should be quick-ish, but I just wanted to suggest it.
Go ahead.
I think one of you should come up with give me a band, give me say a band name, say a song name, and we try and create a character, and that it will add as one of the enemies you fight based on this.
Band, okay. I don't know, Romani, you immediately thinking of anything?
You should just do Linkin Park in the end.
Perfect.
Okay.
That one's good.
Okay. So how would a stand like that work? So you've got a stand called what is the stand name Linkin Park, or is that the user the username and the stand is in the end?
The stand would be in the end.
The stand is in the end. Okay. What's in the end going to do as a name? Doesn't even matter. I mean, maybe it fast forwards the opponent like towards the end of their life.
Maybe.
So it's like, oh yeah, I'm just fighting you as a 20-year-old. Well, you're really hard to beat because you're as tough as me, but I'm gonna fast forward you, and now you're an 80-year-old man, and now I can just beat you up.
Yeah, I was gonna say some sort of acceleration or time skip, but I think that also might just be borrowing an ability from a canon enemy.
So maybe the stand itself isn't physically powerful, so it still relies the user to beat up the opponent, but it can do that to the opponent, and it's like, I'm just gonna fight you 80-year-old man.
So it's even.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, what if it can like skip to the conclusion of a fight, but the user has to be able to beat this person? They'll get there. They just like won't exhaust themselves doing it.
I like that, but it sounds like way too complicated to manage in like suddenly a time skip and I fudge the numbers. So from a mechanical point of view, no.
Yeah, no, that was a
it could be like
JoJo answer, not a mechanically good answer.
Oh, sure.
Maybe it's something like if all the damage, if you success the whole bunch against this enemy, but you miss one time and it's like reverse all of that. Like in the end, it didn't even matter that you punched me.
Oh, that I do like that as well.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, get ready to fight against Linkin Park when we eventually play this game.
Oh no.
Okay.
Well, when we do that, we will for sure discuss it on the show. I am really looking forward to that. I've been listening to a lot of JoJo lately, so really looking forward to playing a JoJo game. Other than that, I think we do have to start signing off. I do want to give a shout out to everything we have linked below. Definitely go check out all of the Lancer people we've talked to. Also, Untold Stories Project, where I am at on Mondays, playing in their superhero game, which is going into space now. We did an intro last week, and then we played a session 0.5 off stream. But they have put that up on their YouTube now, if you want to go check it out. See me struggle with trying to do a different voice. It just needs practice. But you can listen to it, and I think I will be the one who's getting dunked on by chat in this series, so you can come check that out as well. Other than that, I don't think there's any other specific thing I have to put links to. And
I will send you the JoJo tabletop one just in case anyone else is interested.
Oh, for sure. Then I'll put that at the top of the description, so I'll drop that down there if you want to go check that out. Is there anything else either of you want to say before we head off?
Nothing without stealing your catchphrase.
Yeah, like Ramon did last week, so I'm going to swoop in before you can.
Since I was trying to be a villain, like...
like Dr. Dracula.
Dr. Dracula.
Well... Thanks everybody for listening. Please check out the other podcast episodes on our gaming streams. And until then, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, bye guys.